before I really dive into the question, I was looking through some definitions on the internet, and I would like to share two of those, what racism actually is. So, definition number 1 says that racism are policies, behaviors, rules, etc. that result in an unfair advantage of one group and in harmful and unfair treatment of another group based on race. The second definition says that racism are harmful or unfair things people say, do, or think based on the belief that their race is more intelligent, good, moral, etc. than another race. So, now that we know what racism is, I want to start by saying that racism is inherently wrong. It is not fair to mistreat another human being or to treat them unequally because of something they can't even change, because they did nothing wrong. I believe that everybody should be treated equally, not only because it's just human decency to treat everybody the same, but also because it's part of our human rights. I believe that I should treat people the way that Jesus treated people. Now, Jesus is the Son of God, and in the Bible, which is the Word of God, it says that Jesus treated everybody he met on his way the same way. He treated them with love and with kindness and with respect. And he gave everybody who was on a wrong path a second chance and a chance to better themselves. For example, he dined together with women who were thought of quite lowly at the time. Or he had a chat with a tax collector who had a really low profession and a really devious profession that a lot of people could not stand. Or even his disciples were fishermen, and fishermen were not in a high rank of society. They were not looked up to. They were rather looked down on. Well, racism is sadly not an issue of the past, even though some want to believe that. There's a lot of Black and Asian ethnic minorities that, even though they are now equal by law, they have the right to vote, they have the exact same rights as we do, but there's still a lot of systemic racism, a lot of open discrimination, and a lot of prejudices that still live in our minds and that still affect the way how we treat these people or how we talk about these people. In fact, in 2010 in the UK, Black people were 6 times more likely to be stopped by the police and searched for no reason. In 2018 and 2019, Black people were 10 times more likely to be searched by the police than white people. And I think these numbers already speak for themselves that something needs to be changed. And yes, of course, a lot has changed within history. I mean, we just have to take a look at America. With a lot of protests and a lot of demands that were made, in the end, in the 20th century, they gained equal rights by law. Now, Martin Luther King, who played a major part in the civil rights movement and who made major changes and really is one of the people who really got things going. He held a speech called I Have a Dream, and in this speech he said this: I have a dream that my 4 little children will one day live in a nation where they will not be judged by the color of their skin, but by the content of their heart. Now, do you think that we already achieved this dream? Or do you think that there's perhaps more that we could do? When I thought about this question and prepared for this video, I also wanted to take a look in the Bible and see if I could find something in there that talks about racism or something that is somehow equal and that I could share with you. And I found in the New Testament, in one of the Gospels, I found the story of the Good Samaritan. This story, or rather parable, was told by Jesus to an expert of law, and he asked Jesus, "Who is my neighbor?" And this is the story that Jesus told him. So there was a Jewish man, and he was walking down a path from Jerusalem to Jericho. Now, this path was rather rocky and hilly, and it was really small, and it was well known for bandits to be there and rob you. So you had to be really careful. Now, unfortunately, this man got robbed. They took all his clothes, they wounded him badly, and just let him lie there in at the side of the street in the blazing hot sun. So then 3 men walked by. The first man, he was a priest. And now I want to give you a little bit of background information. In those times, priests were really high rank in society. They were looked upon, they were appreciated, everybody listened to them, they were really respected. Now, this priest sees the man and walks by. Well, there's another 2 men, right? Well, the second man was a Levite. And a Levite is kind of similar to a priest job-wise. He was a little bit less appreciated, a little bit less ranked, but still very important. And this Levite sees the man and goes by. Keeps on going. And then a 3rd man walked by. And that man was a Samaritan. Now I need to give you some more background information, because the relationship between Samaritans and the Jewish population was not exactly the best. Actually, they despised each other. The Jews really despised the pagan idols that the Samaritans worshipped. They despised the intermarriages, the mixed marriages that they had, and they just did everything in their mind to avoid them. And also the Samaritans didn't think very highly of the Jews either. They thought they were kind of snob and like looking down on them because of their mixed marriages, and they just couldn't stand that. So this Samaritan, he could have done what normally enemies would do. He could have just walked by, maybe even make fun of the man in the ground. But instead, he goes up to him and he decides to help him. He cleans his wounds, he cares for him, he gives him bandages, and he gives him clothes, and eventually takes him to an inn and says to the innkeeper, hey, you know what, I want to pay for this man for his stay. If I return, I can pay more if he needs more time to stay here. Just consider it done. Now, these 2 men came from 2 very opposing groups, from 2 very opposing cultural backgrounds. And yet, still the man decided to help the other man, the Jewish man. And he did the right thing, because obviously everybody should be treated equally, and you shouldn't treat people less because maybe you have heard bad things about them or you have bad stereotypes about them. After Jesus finishes with this story, he says to the man, love your neighbor as you love yourself. And he didn't give any conditions. He didn't say, oh, love your neighbor if he's taller than 6 feet, or love your neighbor if he's in a 15 miles radius from you. But if he lives far away, then don't love him. He didn't say, love your neighbor, but only when his skin color is white. No, he did say nothing of that. He just said, love your neighbor as you love yourself. No conditions, no buts, no additions. I really believe that racism shouldn't be an issue anymore in the 21st century, but sadly it still is. And it is our responsibility to fight against discrimination and to fight against these prejudices and to fight for equality and inclusion. And we can do that by just sharing the love and kindness and respecting everyone at the same level. It is something that everyone can do, and it is so simple, yet it seems so hard for so many people. And with sharing love and practicing kindness to those around you, we can change the world bit by bit.